This is so cool. I've never done this.
So,
Do I just click next? Oh,
so
here we
Saber,
go.
would you rather drive in a dry race or would you rather drive in a wet race?
Let's say wet race because I know I need to get better at that.
So the reason of you wanting to drive in a wet race is to improve yourself in that. It's evidently harder to drive in a wet race, but let's say you were equally good in both of them. Would you still choose a wet race? Is it more fun to drive in? Does it give you more
Probably.
thrills? Or if you were equal in
Uh,
both?
I guess it's hard to say because I mean, in a dry race, you obviously go faster. In wet race, it's can be really fun to like hunt for the grip, use your car control, and I guess see where you can push it. So I don't know, but we'll just stick with the wet race. Yeah, we'll stick with the wet race.
Right, so Saber, now, would you rather win a race starting from the last position in a pretty heroic manner, or would you prefer winning a race starting from pole position and leading all laps throughout the race?
Um, I mean, I would like to start last and pass everyone, but it's probably better that I start on pole and win the race from there because then that means I got better at qualifying. So we'll go with the second one.
Well, your your first assumption answer does not seem wrong for a racer who in 2019 won the Striving Forward award for most passes during the season. It seems pretty apt for someone who has been awarded for being good in overtaking, but we'll go with winning a race starting from pole and leading all laps because that is what actually I have seen most people preferring because they just it gives a different kind of thrill. So coming to this point, how would you, being a winner of the of an award that is given to the person with the most number of overtakes in the season, or the most number of passes in the season, how would you define your racing style? Like I have seen that you defend very well and you are very efficient in making places, but how does Saber Cook describe her own racing style? How do you describe your own racing style? Do you think you are someone who is better at starting in the front and winning? Or do you think you are better at making up places and strategically after starting towards the back? Where do you think you are better right now?
I think based on, I mean, I guess if I start up front, I have no problem like obviously pacing and being able to stay up front and win. But in W series, I definitely was more of the second one where I was better. Well, I didn't have a good qualifying, so that's why I ended up having to strategize and move forward in the races. So I guess yeah, I guess it depends on the race series, but in W series, the second one was definitely the case.
Right. You mentioned the importance of qualifying. Now, coming back to something related to that that you had even shared on your social media a few weeks ago, you had mentioned that how important the draft is in the Daytona because of how that affects the way you start and everything. So, how do you think? How do you see how important is qualifying position in a race? How important is the position from where you start the race in any kind of series, generally talking?
I mean, it's everything. Qualifying is probably, I mean, maybe the most important part to set yourself up for success with the race. So it's extremely important.
So right, this one is something that you are taking right off from your social media, from your own book. So would you rather be viewing a romantic sunset or would you rather be eating chocolate on the couch with your dog?
Definitely the second one. I don't know. I like
The second
sunsets
one.
though too.
So
Can
the
I watch a
dog,
sunset with my dog while eating chocolate? Be the best of everything.
uh, I'm no one to be stopping you from that, but if you had to choose one of these two options,
Yeah, I would pick the probably pick the chocolate with the dog.
right? So would you rather be karting right now, or would you rather be racing Formula cars?
Racing Formula cars. Well, that's tough. I love karting.
Okay, so
That's a tough question, but I guess for long term goals, where I want to be, I need to be racing the Formula cars.
right. So you started your career in karting and then you moved into racing Formula cars. So if you could just briefly explain us in your own words, what do you think is the difference between the two in terms of how you feel while racing, the handling and the competitiveness that you get in the races?
I guess so. The big difference between karting and a car is there is a lot more that you need to feel when going through the corners. I mean, a cart doesn't extend it doesn't really have suspension. So just learning how to feel, how to react with that, like because karting when a cart oversteers and goes, it just I feel like it's easier to feel it, it's easier to react to it. But when you start driving, especially Formula cars, like it's different when you're driving like a sedan type car or sports car because there's so much more roll, and the car is telling you a lot more and giving you a lot more information before the car will go. Versus like a Formula car, especially ones that's extremely stiff, really low roll center, and tons of downforce. The amount that the car will move or will give you indication when it's about to go, it happens in about like this much time versus like sports cars like this much time. So and a cart is just easier to react to that. So that was probably I would say the biggest difference as far as racing goes. I mean, racecraft is racecraft. Like obviously different cars, you're going to have to learn how to draft differently. Like if there's more downforce involved, and learning how to tuck out from behind a car and get the air on your front wing to get the car to turn when you're following in Formula cars. But at the end of the day, I mean, racecraft is pretty applicable wherever you go.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. And if I think anyone who has done karting and Formula racing both will definitely agree with you. So now, would you rather take part in esports, or do you rather prefer taking part in a physical race?
Definitely the physical race.
This seemed like a very easy choice for you. But yeah, just to take your understanding and your experience from esports, so you took part in the W Series esports series in 2020, if I'm not wrong. So although you did not have a very desirable season result, how would you rate your experience? Like, did you learn something new from it, or like was
I
it
only did
very
half the race.
challenging to adapt yourself to after so much of physical? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Okay, yeah. Right. So yeah, you only did.
it was hard, but sorry, go ahead. I don't think I can hear
Yeah,
you.
sorry. Yeah, I think
You
there was.
there?
Oh, can you hear me now? I think there's a lag.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. So yeah, I was mentioning that you took part in the W Series esports. You did take part for around only half of the season, but was it very difficult to adapt to after so much of physical racing? And like, did you think it was more challenging, or did you think it did not give you any thrills or any fun?
I mean, it was definitely challenging because if you don't do something a lot, then it's gonna be hard. Like the more you practice something, the better you get at something. So for esports, I mean, me and several of the other girls, like we really hadn't done a lot of sim racing or esports racing at all. And then you take like Beitska and Arena, and they've done a lot of it. So I mean, that just showed that the more you practice something, the better you are. And it definitely was a learning curve. I started to get the hang of it, but then I ended up traveling for work and other races like throughout the esports season. So then I didn't end up doing half of them. So that was a bit hard, where I'd be in for a race and then I would start to get the hang of it and then miss like two or three and then have to jump in again at the end. But it was a different experience, and it definitely helped you to develop other skills.
Rather would you
Drive an
rather
IndyCar.
drive a chassis 318 Formula 3 car? Have an Indy car. That was so quick. That was very quick. So, what is that? What is that attraction towards the Indy car for you?
I
Is
mean,
it the speed? Is it
well, compared to the F3 car, it's a heck of a lot faster. A lot more downforce. Like really, everything about the car is better. So that's pretty much why. Probably be a mechanic. Spectating is extremely boring.
on to the next one? The final one that we're putting in front of you. This one should be a little more challenging than the other ones. At least I'm hoping so. So, would you rather not race at all, or would you rather race in an extremely uncompetitive car?
Uh, what does it? What series is it in?
Oh, okay, yeah. So for it to be an uncompetitive car, I think we cannot go with F3 or F2. Let us take a series where cars actually do make the difference. So a series where the constructors actually develop their own cars. So for example, I'm going to give you an example. Just take for an example, you have graduated to Formula One. So would you rather not race at all, or would you drive in an extremely uncompetitive car?
I would definitely race the Williams.
So the choice is to just keep racing and keep racing every day. There is no option to not race at all, it seems like, for you.
Yep, that sounds fine.
That is